Okay, his answer was about his journey towards the acceptance of the beliefs of Jamaat Islamiyya Ahmadiyya. He said first of all he was converted into Islam, but that was only the beginning of his journey in...
Prior to that he was a Christian.
Yes, but he didn't. And because so many questions of his were not deeply answered by different sects of Islam, therefore he started his journey to search for the deep truth. And once he reached the doorsteps of the Jamaat Islamiyya Ahmadiyyat, he found all those answers which really did make some sense to his heart and also give him the fulfillment and happiness to his heart as well too.
Now before we start before we begin to invite new questions, I have a debt to pay left over from last evening. I promise you that I will tell you more about Ahmadiyyat in Turkey. So here I have got a full list of things. The first Ahmadi who is recorded in not only in our history but recorded by Hazrat Masih Maud ﷺ himself. In the first 313 who accepted him before 1900, and these 313 are called because of the Battle of Badr. 313 participated in that, and they actually made the beginning of victories for Islam to come. So this is why Hazrat Masih prepared a list of 313 companions, and in that list his name is 291st from Turkey, imagine. And his name was Sayyid Muhammad Afandi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Right? Now, as far as I know, this is not mentioned here in history. As far as I know, I had a vague idea which I mentioned too, that there was somebody who accepted Ahmadiyyat in Masih's time. This is he, in fact. But he went on preaching to others, although we lost touch with him. He was not in touch with Qadian and Rabwa regularly, but we know that he was active, and he remained active throughout his remaining life, because those Ahmadis which are reported appeared here and there, who were mentioned by that the British roaming ambassador. They were, to the best of our knowledge, were made by him, because there was no other link between them and Ahmadiyyat other than somebody in Turkey who was continuously preaching Ahmadiyyat. So I'm sure it has to be Sayyid Muhammad Afandi. Then in charge of our department of history, he seems to be blank about what happened in Khilafat-e-Ula, in the first caliphate. So I believe he's blank about that because the reports did not reach. But some of the Ahmadis which I've read about must have converted to Ahmadiyya during the first caliphate. You see? Then there's a big gap of the known Ahmadis until 20th of September 1948. It was then this belief that a man from Turkey, a young boy from Turkey, became an Ahmadi. But I think they believe, but it is not so. This gentleman, this young man is of Turkish origin, but he did not accept Ahmadiyyat from Turkey. His forefathers had gone over sometimes long ago and settled in Tashkent or in areas of the USSR Muslim states. So I don't exactly remember, but he's here Absolute Turkey. Yes. But he's originally he's a USSR citizen, but of Turkish origin. There are millions of people of Turkish origin who now live in USSR. So he's one of those. Then the first person really who was a very noble, scholarly gentleman who continuously worked for the cause of Ahmadiyyat is that Shanasi Hassan Sahib. Is this the one whom you were trying to pronounce yesterday, last night? What did you say? How did you pronounce it?
Shanasi Siber.
Chanachi?
Shanasi Siber. Hassan Siber.
But because I had known him as Shanasi Hassan, so that is why I simply couldn't understand what you were talking about.
No, Hassan, he doesn't used to use Hassan, but he was also was calling Shanasi Siber.
Right. But in Pakistan, as I remember his name, when I was a student in Jamia, etc., since then we know this gentleman, and he was known as Shanasi Hassan. Everybody calls him Shanasi Hassan. That is why his name is written in Ahmadiyya history book as Shanasi Hassan. He became Ahmadi in 1948 because of his contact with Sayyid Barakat Ahmad Sahib, who was a high ranking civil service officer of India. Sayyid Barakat Ahmad Sahib belongs to a very famous and very devout Ahmadi family whose father was Dr. Sayyid Shafi Ahmad Sahib Dehlavi. But I think more than Dr. Sahib, it was his wife Begum Shafi who reached wide fame because of her books, the books she wrote. She wrote some very interesting Reformation novel of Reformation, not reformatory novels, and they became very popular. So Dr. Barakat Ahmad was son of Dr. Sayyid Shafi Ahmad Sahib and his wife, and he gave him some literature, Shanasi Hassan. Now this goes on. Dr. Barakat Ahmad was a press attaché of India in Ankara in those days. He gave him first the English version of English rendering of the Quran by Jamaat Ahmadiyya. When he read it, he was completely transformed. Just reading that translation of the Quran, completely changed him. And from then on, he started serious study. So, in fact, he became a regular member of the Jamaat in 1960. From 48, he was treated as Ahmadi because he was very dedicated and he loved Ahmadiyya so much. But actually, his bai'at was initiated. He was formally initiated in 1960. Then he started working for Ahmadiyyat, and he is the gentleman who translated the introduction to the Holy Quran in Turkish. This became so popular. This is first translation of Shanasi Sahib, that the Ministry of Religious Affairs published this in the number of 10,000, and it was officially the ministry who distributed this translation widely.
He himself told me.
Huh?
He himself told me.
Shanasi Sahib. Yes. On the 20th of November 1956, although, as I told you, he was understood to be an Ahmadi, but he had not yet accepted Ahmadiyya formally, he wrote a very dedicated letter to Hazrat Muslim Maud. Incidentally, his wife had also become an Ahmadi. Her name was Sabiya Khanam. See? The letter he wrote is a long one, but I read a few sentences. A very long, very dedicated letter. And remember, it was written to Muslim 4 days before he actually had become Ahmadi initially. I mean, formally. I have firm faith that Ahmadiyyat is the only true Islam. Who is capable of delivering Islam to the 20th century. Because all other brands of Islam are left behind according to his estimation. The only Islam which is capable of delivering the message to the 20th century is Ahmadiyyat. He said the brand of Islam, the type of Islam you are presenting to the world, reached me first by your own work, Introduction to the Holy Quran. I can say this much, that this work was definitely produced with the help of Allah, or with the guidance of Allah. It was this reading which removed many doubts and suspicions about the teaching of Islam from my heart and purified my views. But it is a long letter. I don't think we should read all of it. The last part, I think this is a Turkish style of saying things. While he was not there, he was quite at some distance, he said, in the end, kissing your hands. You see?
Our tradition.
I request you to remember me in prayer.
Yes.
There's a Turkish style of saying that.
Yeah.
We don't say that in letters. If somebody is there, of course we kiss the hands of those who love. But in letters we say, kissing your hands, I do this. Once he wrote a letter to my elder brother, who was then the Wakil al-Tabshir, the secretary for preaching of Ahmadiyyat in countries other than Pakistan. He became very friendly to, both became friendly to each other, because my elder brother, Hazrat Mirza Mubarak Ahmad Sahib, when he went to Turkey, he met him and they became very close. So he wrote to him, I want to tell you a secret of mine. Before becoming an Ahmadi, I was about to become a Christian.
I know. He himself.
You know that?
Yeah.
This is what he told him. He wrote to him.
I know.
He said the ignorance and the arrogance of the Muslim clergy knows no bounds. It's limitless. So, trying to learn Islam from them was tantamount to hating Islam, because an intellectual man cannot agree with the mullah's concept of Islam. So he said it was this which had pushed me over to the very brink of destruction, and I was about to accept Christianity, when with the grace of Allah I was saved by the hand of Barakat Ahmad Sahib and the literature he gave. Right? Then he, in that letter, he praises very highly the book written by my late father, Hazrat Mirza Bishuddin Mahmud Ahmad Sahib. He said that was a fascinating book. It completely transformed my ideas about Islam and everything. One small promise to be fulfilled is about, I said, but I'm sorry, it's the same verse which you had.
Yes, only one was another one which we could find from Rabba, first one.
But still that is missing here. I said Jahula, the word Jahula, as far as I remembered, had been used in pre-Islamic poetry, in the sense which I explained. But the two verses they have sent do not contain that, the word Jahula at all. But its sense of approaching that, of course, is mentioned. Allah la yajhalan ahadun alayna fanajhal fawqa jahil jahilina. But that's a different thing. Come on, I'm available again after this long, slow diversion.
Thank you very much.
في بداية هذه